Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And my water bottle water tastes like mouthwash and I'm dying. Hey.
You're watching episode 174 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. It's probably going to be a short one.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Victoria?
We're going to talk about Rumpelstiltskin, Tale of a Wee Little Man,
Mm-hmm.
and the Seven Deadly Dwarves, because Devin and I always get the title of that one wrong. So
Do I?
we always call it Snow White and the Seven Deadly Dwarves.
I don't think I do normally call it that.
When we were talking about the fact that we were going to review this one next.
Okay, but I don't think I usually call it that.
Anyway, so the Rumpelstiltskin one is from the new album, which is numbered 67.
It's from the OAC.
Oh, right. Are we on album 67?
Yes.
I can't believe I got that right. Okay. And Snowed White, that's not what it's called, is from 34.
Yeah. This
Dreams.
is the first half episode that we have ever reviewed.
I remember, because I think about, half of the albums before the Novacom ones, and I guess including lots of them, Devin owns the original covers for them. And I think In Your Wildest Dreams was one of the first, big ones next to Drive Time and, what's the one that has Tom Vermeer in it?
22.
Yeah.
Changing Times.
So, those were the big three where I was just like, oh man, these are so much better than the covers we have. Our covers are so ugly.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, Changing Times, I hate the cover for Changing Times so much. I'm so happy with what they changed it to. And In Your Wildest Dreams, I actually really like the I Slept Floor picture on the front. I like looking at Edwin in his goofy Willy Wonka's outfit.
Wait, sorry, are you saying you like... Oh, I see it. Oh, sorry.
I like the ones they have now. I don't
For a second,
like
I thought you were saying you like the old one.
No, and I don't like the postcard one for...
Wish You Were Here?
Wish You Were Here.
Oh, I like that one.
I like the newer one with Eugene and Bernard in the car more. I think Wish You Were Here was one of the less bad ones. I'm not big on 19's
16's original cover with, or 15's original cover with Flat Tom.
Oh, but we don't own that one.
No.
No. All the Golden Album episodes, we own the more modern cover for.
Well, I think not the most. Anyways, this is neither here nor there nor anywhere, really.
Let's talk about Rumpelstiltskin first.
Yes.
So,
episode.
This is a kids' radio one. Sorry,
yeah,
you start.
Episode 866. It's written by Dave Arnold. Yeah, it's kids' radio production. It is narrated by Wilhelm Holstein.
And it's just straight up the story of Rumpelstiltskin, but with a more positive spin on the ending, which was almost slightly empowering, but I'm not completely sure.
I had to look it up because there was a moment where I was like, wait a minute, is this little tiny Holstein through the football into Katrina's mouth? But it is not. So I don't know if this is supposed to be Mr. Holstein's brother.
I thought it was Mr. Holstein.
No,
I listened
Wilhelm
to this episode
Holstein.
Once, and it was back in the middle of the summer.
So it is.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I re-listened to it earlier this week. So they are the new owner, I guess, of Holstein's books. I don't know how new, I guess, at this point, but it must have inherited it from Fred Holstein.
Maybe all the Holsteins are flooding back because they found out Katrina is not on the run anymore and they're coming to injure her too.
Yeah.
Everyone gets one.
Come to think of it, I don't know why I thought it was Hans Holstein, because if he was a 6-year-old or whatever in album 29, he probably would not be as old as he sounded in the narration of this episode. Time in Odyssey is not nearly that twisted.
Maybe Hans' little brother's gonna come for Buck.
The voice of Wilhelm Holstein is also Jacques-Henri.
Okay.
So he just loves doing his European accent work, I guess.
So this episode is straight up just Rumpelstiltskin. So
yes.
I shouldn't have to explain the plot of Rumpelstiltskin. I feel like everyone
not really
should know that. A miller's daughter has to go to the palace because the dad is like, he basically gives her away to the king, and then hijinks ensue, and then she ends
Question
up
mark,
having to
question
give up
mark,
her
question mark,
kid,
profit, literally.
and she has to figure out Rumpelstiltskin's name, so she doesn't have to give up her kid.
I have a
Hi.
Hello.
question.
Goodbye.
In the
Goodbye.
actual Grimm story, how
Yep.
does she find out Rumpel's name? Because I realized while listening to this that
I want to say a bird tells her.
I don't actually
Let
know,
me check.
because in my mind,
You're thinking the Muppet version?
the heuristic for Rumpelstiltskin's story in my mind is the Muppet version,
Heck
which is
yeah.
equally
valid
to this
so.
one in terms of how she figures out the name. Because in this one, she reads it in like Spinning Straw into Gold for Dummies, and in the Muppet version, she like reads it in the inside of his sneakers because he revealed that he went to camp.
Oh, I love Muppets so much. Okay, can I just say, I think my favorite version of Miss Piggy might be the Rumpelstiltskin version of her, because I think it's one of the few Muppet stories where I never got mad at her or anything like that, and was like, leave Kermit alone. Because I was more mad at her father and brothers, who were in the Three Little Pigs bit too, and they were awful, and she was great. She's so good in that movie.
See,
anyway.
I'm glad that you knew exactly what I was thinking as I was
I
that.
knew where you're going.
And so I was
that.
thinking
It's
about
very
that,
good.
and I was like, this one's also goofy, and I was like, I guess they couldn't, and then I was... In my brain, I was trying to compare it to like what actually happens, and I was like, wait a minute, I have literally zero idea how it actually goes.
Okay, do you want to guess how she figures out what his name is?
I mean, the one you said kind of makes sense, because birds can imitate human speech.
No, I was wrong.
Okay.
I think I've just seen that happen in different versions. So what happens is...
I mean, it's a Grimm fairy tale, so...
So right before...
It's probably like... She, like, has to, like, skin him alive.
Is it originally Grimm, though?
What?
Because lots of fairy tales
none of them are originally Grimm.
Yeah.
They didn't write any original fairy tales, as far as I'm aware.
That makes a lot of sense.
There was actually, in the web quest, they had a whole thing explaining, like, the history of the Grimm Brothers and how they wrote their books and stuff like that.
Nice. I'm actually going to probably check that one out. That sounds cool. Okay, so it's completely Rumpel's fault that she finds out his name. So basically, he decides to throw himself a one-man party, and then the night before,
She looks at what he wrote on the cake.
The morning where she would have to give him the baby. So the night before that, he just, like, builds himself a little fire, and he starts dancing around the fire, and she just, like, follows him and hides behind a bush, basically. And he's just, like, cheering, and I can find the word-for-word thing, because it's on Wikipedia.
Maybe I have heard this.
And this is... Okay. She comes across his remote mountain cottage and watches unseen as
one does with remote mountain cottages.
As he hops around his fire and sings in his song's lyrics, "Tonight, tonight, my plans I make. Tomorrow, tomorrow, the baby I take. The queen will never win the game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." And then then the next morning she's like, "Your name's Rumpelstiltskin." He's like, "Blast."
And then
how did you ever figure it out? All I do is scream it to the heavens.
Goldie looks into the camera and gives a solid, like, Arrested Development, like, wow, that was a freebie. So,
yeah.
But why does it rhyme? It should be in German, isn't it? Or did they reword the translation to make it rhyme in English?
Do you want to be patient for like 1 minute?
No.
Okay. You're gonna be. Keep talking.
Okay.
Keep talking. Sorry, what were you saying?
I'm not going to repeat it all, although I did put a joke in there that was specifically aimed at you. Yeah, they know what it is, Victoria. I already told them.
What were you saying?
That I really like
probably own it?
How the minion, like, did the rhyming thing, and then when he'd leave the king's presence and he wasn't rhyming, and it made me think of the RTA about Trevor and Barb's, like, berries and cream Willy Wonka guy at the hotel.
Trying to figure out if this is alphabetical or not.
Is there not a table of contents or an index?
I'm looking at the table of contents, but everything has, like, the word "the" in front, so...
Well, usually that's not counted when alphabetizing.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's alphabetical on top of that either. So
is there an index at the end? I guess that would be kind of weird if the index just had the name of the stories, because then that's just a table of contents, but in
I'm
a
pretty
different
sure I've
order.
seen the word Sleeping Beauty like 3 different times.
Anyway, so the thing with the Grimm Brothers is they talked about how you could kind of compare, like, it's, how audio drama is one of the oldest art forms, because audio drama in the past was just like oral tradition, and that the Grimm Brothers would just pay storytellers from different cultures to come to their house and tell them all of the stories that they knew, and then they would just write them all down and compile them into volumes of stories.
That's cool. This book's really pretty.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble finding Rumpelstiltskin.
I've
Nothing's
noticed.
alphabetical.
I thought you were
I'm not sure if it's in here.
gonna Google it. Isn't that their...
No. Oh, I found it. Page 236.
The theme at the end where it's like, okay, the obvious one, like, oh, greed, and you guys lied, don't make promises you can't keep, and stuff like that. And then Renee was like, I've got a great theme here.
Oh my
that's gosh, actually
she's
a little
terrifying.
bit deep. And I was like, wow, that actually was a really good theme that she laid down about needing to know and understand the nature of evil in order to defeat it. It was actually very good and apt and surprising pull for this story. So I was very impressed by that. What did you think, Victoria?
Jay, I thought it was good. That's something I'm going to talk about in a minute.
And it was funny because, like, Renee
first.
was like, oh, this is actually a little deep, a little complex here. And I was like, oh ho, we'll see. And then she said it, and I was like, aw, dang. That was correct.
Look at that face. That's a face that I make when I'm scheming too.
I can't really see the face.
Bring
it closer. Oh, yes. Very good.
Okay. Today I bake, tomorrow brew, the next I'll have the young queen's child. Ha, I'm glad that no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin I am styled.
So, I mean, this is still a translation.
I guess it depends on the name translation. Yeah.
So they are changing, they are twisting it to make it rhyme in English.
She still, like, fakes him out when she sees him that last day. You may think how glad the queen was when she heard the name, and soon afterwards the little man came in and asked, Now, Mistress Queen, what is my name? At first she said, Is your name Conrad? No. Is your name Harry? No. Perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin. The devil told you that! The devil told you that! Cried the little man, and in his anger, he plunged his right foot so deep into the earth that his whole leg went in. What is happening? And in his rage, he pulled at his left leg so hard, both hands, and he...
ripped his leg off?
And then in rage, he pulled at his left leg so hard with both hands that he tore himself in two. And that's the last sentence of the story. That's how it ends.
The end.
The end. Oh, I love fairy tales. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was like a good kind of little lesson to tack on. And it's interesting because obviously in the Middle Ages into the Renaissance, as you're well aware, the idea of your name, your true name, held a lot of power and superstition around that idea.
That is why middle names were created.
That's exactly what I was going to say next.
Yeah. It's so the fairies can't control you.
Yes.
That's why I don't tell people my middle names, so the fairies can't get me.
Yeah, and it's funny to me that is carried over so strongly in today that we still consider, like, middle names to be, like, a semi kind of secret thing. Like, ooh, what's your middle name? And it kind of...
That's a game me and my friends would play in high school. We would try to guess each other's middle names.
See, exactly. Like, it's fascinating to me that, like, 500 years later that's still carried over like that. So to me, this story has always been very deeply connected to, like, that concept, because it's around the same time period.
I mean, Rumpelstiltskin is Fae in a lot of different versions of the story. So
which is why it's so clearly, like, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, the whole stealing a baby thing is so on point changeling that, like, it's just...
Well, yeah,
I mean, if it was changeling proper, the baby would be replaced by a fairy, but, like... Yeah. Not a fairy, a
Renee's
fae
thing where she's like,
changeling.
oh, you'll be... You're Bert, and you'll be my Bert, and I'll be your mother. Was that supposed to be a Looney Tunes reference to, like...
I think it was.
It would be George and... You'll Be
Yeah.
Mine.
Honestly,
It was just different enough that I
think-
couldn't tell if it was supposed to be that.
Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure that's not originally a Looney Tunes thing.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's from... Oh, man. I think it's from Of Mice and Men, originally. And it's said by... I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about this, because I think the Looney Tunes character, because he's like, he says it like, oh, you will be my George and stuff, right? So in Of Mice and Men, one of the main characters is like, has a mental handicap, and he's very strong, and and he likes like soft and fuzzy things, and every time he like touches like a dog or a bunny, he accidentally kills it because he's not gentle with it.
It's like Equius.
And so like I think he names one of them George or something like that, and he kills a couple women because he wants to touch their soft hair and like pet their hair, but then he accidentally snaps their neck. And the story ends with his friend telling him they're going to go see the bunnies, and then when he's not looking, he shoots him. So he won't be a danger to anyone else.
Well,
Of Mice and Men is not a fun story. I have not read it, but I do know what happens in it.
That's very depressing, but once again, I'm very glad that you know so many things that I don't know, because I couldn't have given you one word about what Of Mice and Men is about. All I know is the title, and that's it.
That's why the Looney Tunes character talks
sense.
like that, which is kind of awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also like, of all stories, why that story? So let me just double check that I'm right about this. Otherwise, people are...
It sounds pretty credible. I believe you wholeheartedly.
Because one of the characters is named George. So he's like, are we going to go see the rabbits, George? Or whatever he says.
The video documentary for this, there was like a short bit with a pastor who talks about greed and contentedness, but most of the time it was about these Renaissance musicians, and they were playing a couple songs, first on the oboe and the hammer dulcimer, and then the oboe lady also played on the recorder as well, and it was very beautiful and lovely.
Yeah, I was right. That's where it came from in Looney Tunes, Of Mice and Men.
Well, it makes sense because, you know, he always does it to Bugs Bunny, so...
Yep, and that's why.
The hammer dulcimer was cool. I hadn't seen one of those before, so it was very lovely music that they played, and that was most of what the doc was, so...
Can I just
enjoyed
say,
the time allotment.
I didn't think I would like Goldie very much, because I'm not the biggest fan of her as a character, but like...
And of Renee.
Dang, and of Renee, I'm gonna get to that. That was the thing I told you I was gonna talk about. I actually really like Goldie's portrayal in this. Very relatable. I probably would have reacted the same in a lot of circumstances that she was in.
I can't
I
believe
wouldn't quote
that...
as much Looney Tunes as her. I actually really, really liked Renee in this episode. When I said I wanted episodes where Renee like was the one imparting the lesson, I finally got it. I mean, she's reading a script, but like I'll take it.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted. I wanted an episode where like, and her personality as Goldie does shine through. Like this feels like a Renee character. So like for me, this is exactly what I was looking for with a Renee episode, and I am very, very happy with this. I'm very glad that she was cast as Goldie. I don't think Goldie actually has a name in the original story.
I doubt it. I mean, most characters don't in the Grimm Brothers stories, right? They're just known by occupation, mostly.
Not always.
I mean, obviously sometimes they do, but it's not infrequent that they do not have a name. There's just the miller and the miller's daughter and the king. And...
I know that. We both know that. I parody that in ASU.
Yeah.
So that's why no one has names. The 3 feathers, the 3 spinners. There's 3. A lot of things.
Yeah, that's a thing in storytelling, Victoria. That's
It's
a writing
like
tip for you.
The rule of 3 or something like that, one might call it.
Something like that.
I forgot what page this was on. I'm going to have to find it again.
280 something or 260 something?
I thought it was 236.
It was 263 maybe.
I was right. It was 236.
Okay.
She is just the miller's daughter.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I know that for Sleeping Beauty, there's like a bunch of different names that like Aurora has in different adaptations or like different versions. I don't know if she has a name in the Grimm version. I know that she's Rose in a lot of stories, and in some she's Briar Rose, but that's her like legit name in Disney. That they were like, let's make that her fake name.
Yeah, I was gonna
but like
say
every other version, that's just her real name, which I think is interesting. That Disney's like, let's not make that her real name. Let's make that her like nom de plume.
It's a very Disney thing to do.
Yeah.
I was surprised in parts of this episode by how kind of visceral they made jokes about like decapitation. Not for AIO overall. There's nothing that I was like, oh, this surprises me for the show, but for this specific episode and like the tone of this episode. And it was like just enough over the line for what I would expected, like consistent with the tone of the rest of the episode, that I was like, huh, that was a little bit dark. Nothing like
that's
nothing like the DuckTales finale. Thing. Speaking of what Disney would do.
Oh my gosh. Are you talking about Mickey?
Yes.
Oh, I've never loved Gladstone more. Like, oh my gosh.
That says a lot. He's basically Wellington to you, isn't he? Is that where all this comes from?
Oh my gosh, Wellington and Gladstone are a lot alike.
Yes,
now that you
they
mention
are.
It. Man, I have like a type, and it's the type that's just weird. It's a weird type. I have like two types, and that is the more obscure one apparently. Which I'm just realizing
he
now.
Very much is Wellington.
He is. He's just straight up Wellington. I need Wellington to find $20
It's funny because I only
bills
just realized it now, and now you're having a crisis.
Oh man. Yep. Gladstone. I straight up in the finale, I think I yelled, "Where is Gladstone?" like 16 different times, and then he finally showed up at the end, and I was like, yeah! I was so happy, because I got to a point where I was like, he's not going to show up, is he? And then he did, and he was there for the rest of the episode, and I was so happy. And he also murdered Mickey Mouse, which was interesting to behold.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't remember what we were talking about at all.
We were talking about...
Oh, right. I think it's kind of in line with the different, like, AIO fairy tale episodes. Because have you ever noticed that every single fairy tale AIO episode kind of sucks? And has, like, a huge tone problem?
Yes. That's why I didn't have much to say about any of them. I think it's
easy to say that, like, this is definitely, in my opinion at least, I don't know if you'll agree with me, the best AIO fairy tale episode, by far.
I'd probably have to look through the other ones to think. I mean, I can definitely think of the ones that are not good.
Like, there's, like, the Seven Deadly Dwarves. This is better than that. There's Fairy Tale-O-Vision.
Yep.
This is better than that. I would say BTV, is it Forgiveness?
I was just about to say that's a good one.
BTV Forgiveness is actually, I really do like the fairy tale stuff in that episode.
Yeah.
That might be better than this one. Pinocchio's, I actually like Pinocchio.
Pinocchio was good, especially once we connected it more to the source material than to the Disney version.
Yeah, I think that was our problem with that episode.
Yeah.
Which I think...
Well, it's because then we found out...
Finally...
We were like, the order and pacing is so weird in this, and then we found out that's just how Pinocchio is.
That's just how Pinocchio be. Let him be.
Let him be in a confusing narrative structure.
Let him be thrown by his coworkers off a cliff so he drowns.
That's just the nature of serialized storytelling in a newspaper. That's also just how retail jobs are.
That's also just how Charles Dickens operates. Like, that's why he writes the way he does.
That's not Charles Dickens, but...
Yeah, Charles Dickens.
No,
yeah.
It was an Italian guy.
No, I'm saying Charles Dickens, whenever he wrote books, they were generally released chapter by chapter in newspapers.
I just
like Great Expectations is serialized.
Yeah, I know that.
And, like,
I just
people would like flood the docks when the ships came in, and they'd be like, "Give us our new issues of your book," and then I'd be like, put it back. I want to stop reading this. Pip is an awful person, and I don't like him.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to say that Charles Dickens wrote Pinocchio.
No, I know he didn't, but he was a serialized author with a lot of his works. Not all of them, but
that's why he worded things the way he did. Like Victor Hugo getting paid by the letter.
Oh, Mr. Staples. Which, not Victor Hugo. I love Victor Hugo so much. I love the fact that he was like, you know what? I really like Notre Dame Cathedral and I want it to stay around. So I'm going to get all these people to pay me a whole bunch of money so I can write a book on how important Notre Dame is. And because he wrote...
It's literally the like romantic era version of Hamilton when you think about it.
I mean, like... The thing about Notre Dame, everyone go watch Lindsay Ellis's video about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's so interesting. So, like, the reason why he wrote the book is because Notre Dame was, like, falling apart because of, like, wars and stuff like that, and it was just gonna, like, straight up get torn down, and he didn't want that to happen because he really liked it and was interested in, like, I don't know, buildings. And stuff like that. And... So, he got his, like, publishers to pay him a whole bunch of money so he could, like, write the story. And then he, like, spent all of it, and then months later, they're like, have you written anything? And he was like, about that, not really. And they're like, write it, or you have to give us the money back. He's like, I already spent all the money, too.
I wonder what he spent it on.
And, yeah, and then they hounded him, and then eventually he wrote a story, and... like, because of, like, Notre Dame de Paris, like, he finally convinced people, because it was so popular, to restore Notre Dame to the way it was, or at least as close as they could get to it. And then that basically created restoration of old buildings because of the popularity of the book. Like, Victor Hugo is basically the reason why places are considered, like, not to be torn down.
Like historical preservation.
Yeah. So, like, Victor Hugo is basically the person who kickstarted that, which I think is really cool. And the fact that, like, he didn't really give a crap about any of the characters in the book, and he just wrote it because he really likes Notre Dame, and then everyone's like, yo, we're gonna talk about Esmeralda and, like, Quasimodo and Phoebus and Frollo a whole lot. And he was like, no, talk about Paris. Talk about Notre Dame.
Talk about the sewers. More chapters about the sewers.
Talk about the beautiful roof and stained glass. And they're like, by the way, the English version of this book, we translated it to The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's like, that's not what the title is. It should translate to Notre Dame of Paris. And they're like, yeah, but...
get the characters out of the title.
He's like, but what about the story?
The building.
He's like, I don't care about the story. I wrote it for the building.
It's
I
like,
always thought that was really funny.
Maybe one of, like, pre-2000s era, maybe one of the most kind of weird topics for fan fiction.
What?
Just, like, the topic of your fan fiction is just a piece of architecture and not, like, a historical figure or an event or anything like that, but just a building.
I mean, that's very Victor Hugo, isn't he?
It is. It's very much him, yes.
Yeah. I like Victor Hugo. I think he's interesting. You can probably tell me a whole bunch of awful things about him, but I don't want to hear them.
I can tell you a bunch
now.
of amazing things about him.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway,
so...
yeah, Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. I liked this episode. I thought Jay was fun in it. I was expecting to really dislike Jay, 'cause I don't know. I feel like I'm always teeter-tottering on my feelings about Jay.
He was more charitable than I expected.
But yeah, he was actually pretty cool in this episode. I don't get why he was so uptight about being called a wee little man. I don't really care, I guess.
I mean, probably because Jay IRL is very sensitive about height and
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm really apathetic to different things people call me. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. It was very, like, Edward Elric kind of outrage.
Yeah, it was very, like, much like that. I was thinking about FMA today, because that post I saw. Yeah.
I was actually thinking of it because of we were going to record this, but not because of Rumpelstiltskin, because of the 7 Deadly Dwarves.
Why was that making
Because
you
the 7
think
Deadly
of...
Sins.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the 7 deadly sins are personified in like a ton of different
I know,
things.
but I feel like the most common cultural heuristic for their personification is FMA.
I'd like seen them personified in so many things before FMA.
I know.
And now it's just like, I don't know. I usually think of like other things before I think of
I'm
the
not saying
FMA ones.
I think of that first, but I'm saying
always
that
for like lust, I think of the FMA version of lust. Like none other iteration. I just think of the FMA version of her.
We're talking about Rumpelstiltskin, or we're talking about 7 Deadly. Wait, no, we should rate the episode first.
Can I just say, the moral in this episode was great. I really loved it. This is the first version of Rumpelstiltskin I have consumed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to word that.
Yes.
Where like everyone actually gets a talking to, and it was so dang satisfying. Like I've nowhere near come across like as many versions of this story as I have like for Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella or like the really big ones.
Yeah.
But I have like, I don't know, there's the Muppet version, there's the Once Upon a Time version, which is like stressed all the time because the main characters in this are main characters in the series. And then I have read one book adaptation of Rumpelstiltskin, and then just like generally knowing the story. Mm-hmm. And this is the best I've ever seen Goldie treated, and it was just really, really nice. And her like giving everyone a talking to at the ending and telling them to like step off was just like so good. And I was at work when I was listening to it, and I was just like tracing out crafts, and I was just like sitting there, and I was like, heck yes, get it. And I'm so happy. But yeah, I really, really like this episode. And Mr. Holstein, we don't know which one, but he's there, so I'm not really going to question it. Anyway, what do you think? I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars, because, I don't know. It is a fairy tale episode in Odyssey. They do always have weird tone stuff going on.
Yeah.
This episode was actually pretty funny. I do think some of the jokes went on a little too long. Of Mice and Men, Looney Tunes stuff.
It was referenced, 2.5 times, I think?
It was more than that. It was, like, really repetitive. They didn't have to... I don't know.
Well, especially because, like I said, the connection it has to Looney Tunes was just such a, so faint that I couldn't tell if that's even what it was supposed to be. So, without the connection, which I imagine most young kids listening to this will not get, probably. And so...
I don't even get why they made that joke.
When you stress... Yeah, I know. It, in the context of the characters, doesn't make sense.
At all.
And
they
then
just replaced
when it's
the name and decided to do a Looney Tunes joke. And, with at least Looney Tunes, there was the connection that the character doing it was doing it to a rabbit. Yeah. And Bugs Bunny is the rabbit, and that's why it happened. But, there's no reason in this to make the joke. I don't understand.
I can give it 3.5 out of 5.
I thought about maybe giving it lower, but I'm going to stick with 4 for right now because I really liked how they handled the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I do. So. I do like how when we review things, we very frequently will be like, here's what the lesson they gave for the episode was, but here's the advanced lesson. This is what I thought the lesson was going to be until we got to the end, and they're like, oh, it's much more elementary than this. But I'm like, here's the much more interesting lesson I think you could take away from it. Much more rare, the shiny version.
I don't know. I thought
and this one,
I thought they were just going to do something really simple and standard, and then they decided to go to the next level with it.
Well, I mean, they did do that at first. They were like, this is the lesson that applies to everyone. But then Renee was like, here's the AP version of the lesson. And I was like,
she's like, yes, I learned my lesson. It's time for you guys to learn your other lesson that you inflicted on me. And I was just very happy about that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Bethany.
Okay. We probably don't have to stop.
Yeah, probably not.
It'll only be a couple minutes, probably.
Probably.
Okay, so Who wrote this one?
This
And what
is
number
episode 446b, written by Jim Ware.
Okay, so in this episode, Bethany is a dream, and it is influenced by the things that her and her parents and Aubrey were talking about on the drive back home from church. So she basically dreams that she is Snow White in this circumstance, because they're talking about Jared, as everyone should before falling asleep, so he can be in their dreams as a friend.
In this confusing, like, anachronistic line, it ended up being, because then later on, Aubrey was like, who's Jared?
Yeah, but I do like that they, I don't know, mentioned his spy tech or something like that, because that did come up later, like him shopping at that store.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird continuity where it's like, you knew
got it
this,
from...
but you also don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and the 7 dwarves, or the 7 deadly sins, they corrupt Snow White, and then her father has to save her. The magic mirror is HAL 9000, and can I just say, no, I guess that doesn't work. I was gonna say, I wish that Hal voiced Hal, but Hal was not with us anymore when this episode came out, so that would not work.
Nope.
So we could get Paul, but that wouldn't really work either.
Wouldn't make sense.
No. Why is HAL 9000 the mirror? I don't get how that.
Because here's the thing.
From
this episode is basically just like a sequel to Bethany's Flood, because that episode worked exactly the same as what you just said, where Bethany has like a dream where she thinks about a story, and it's just basically like modified and twisted based on every word of dialogue that happened in the first scene before she fell asleep.
I call them imagination characters. You see this with Lawrence, you see this with Bethany, you see it with Trent, and then most recently it's, what's his
Buddy
face? Yeah, Buddy.
Yeah, and I guess they kind of pre-did that with Jack Davis in the beginning, but not really.
They did it, but it didn't go off to the level where it is today. So
he was
I consider Jack to be like,
he was the prototype version. Yeah,
not completely an imagination character, but almost one.
Yeah, but Bethany has these very specific episodes, and it's basically just these 2 that are identical in format. They just changed the story, where it's like, here's the first 2 minutes of the episode. We're going to say a whole bunch of words and names of things. And then Bethany falls asleep and has the story, and we've modified in basically every word of dialogue. Nothing is left over. We've used every single
everything
thing
actually
to
ties
into
into what they were talking about. What does the HAL 9000 have to do with anything? The
only things that they twist the story that are not things that are from the original dialogue is when they put in like references to like media, such as making the mirror.
Yeah, but Hal. Like, Hal isn't a mirror.
No, but he is like a glass round.
I mean, he is in a rectangle, but he's like a circle in a rectangle.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before, but Devin and I both had the misfortune of watching Space Odyssey once, so we know of which
I'm glad we watched it together, at least, you know.
I would not
suffering breeds perseverance, right?
I like can't look at the visuals at the ending of that movie where all the colors go crazy.
There's a reference to that in the DuckTales.
I know, and it like filled me with anxiety when I saw it. I was like, Donald, no, he's gonna turn into a big dumb baby. So many things I've seen like draw an allusion to the color thing in space, and it always just like fills me with unhappy, scared tingles, and I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it so much.
Is this what ASMR is?
Oh, dude, I don't know why, but on YouTube, all the ads that have been targeting me this week are ASMR ads, and I can't get rid of them, and it's always animals eating weird food ASMR. So, like, there's, like, a turtle eating a cherry ASMR in my recommends, but the cherry looks like mutilated bodies, basically, because it's all, like,
well, because a turtle's been eating it.
And it looks disgusting. I thought it was a turtle eating, like, a remains of a person or something like that at first in the thumbnail. Okay. And they're like, cats eating strawberries ASMR. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me?
That's so delightfully specific. I'm really curious about what you fed to the algorithm to make it think that's what you wanted.
I don't want to know. Is it because I watched the Mabim Bam ASMR video so many times where Justin's doing card tricks?
Probably. Was that
Wanna
a thought?
hear some card
was
tricks?
it?
Ezekiel, get me my cards.
That is the correct question. You've passed my first test.
End scene. I'm happy that I could have shared this with you guys.
I've just realized that cards don't make a lot of noise. Okay.
Anyway.
Along the same lines to how, like, another joke that they make where they're like, oh, we'll squeeze in something that has nothing to do with the opening dialogue, but it's just, we've referenced a thing that exists, is when they make the Amazon.com joke. And I was like,
yeah.
When this joke was written, they could not have conceived how much, because, I mean, when they make references to media, they really do, like,
age out.
What's the bell bottom a lot of the time, basically all of the time. Like, you look at the jokes from, like, Lights Out at Wit's End, and I've heard that episode many times for many years, and there are jokes
I try to repress everything in that episode all the time.
Still now, I hear something that exists in the past, I'm like, oh, that's what that was a reference to. I'm only getting it now because I wasn't born when that episode came out. And they, at the beginning, they're really, like, putting in all those media references because, hey, people are going to get this, and they don't. Because
I didn't even know that, like, in Hidden in Our Heart, like, I didn't know what Star Trek was for a long time when I was little. And then the day I found out what it was, I was like, oh, that's what that is. Like, back then when I was a kid, I knew what the Lassie thing was parodying, but I didn't know what Star Trek was, so I basically only got the Lassie bit in the episode.
Did you know what, I assume, do you know what Rescue 911 was?
I remember the day you told me what Rescue 911 was, and I was like, oh, I thought they were just saying that because that's what the phone number for the police was, and you were like, no,
it's 119 in the episode, obviously, because it's
and then you told
119.
me that they were, like, all TV shows. I was like, what do you mean they're all TV shows?
I only knew what Rescue 911 is because sometimes when we'd be at Grandma's house, the super tiny TV that she had playing in the sewing room,
that's the one that we'd always watch the Kim Possible Christmas episode.
Sometimes it would, like, be playing the opening theme or the credits for Rescue 911, and so I just remember just the fact that it was a show, and that's the only reason
I never
that
paid
I knew
attention to anything on that TV unless it was showing me Kim Possible, so I don't remember that.
Yeah, so when they made, because this episode came out in, like, 99, when they made that Amazon.com joke, they could not have conceived of how much that joke would actually continue to hold up over time, over almost any other website on the entire internet that existed when that joke was written.
In the Percy Jackson books, the Amazons actually, 'cause they show up, they actually do secretly run Amazon. And so they, like, live in a warehouse. Well,
because doesn't Hermes like run FedEx or something like that? Or
that's only in the movie.
Okay.
I don't think that's in the books at all.
Okay.
Like, dude, the movies literally have nothing in the books. So that was just, they could put a Firefly joke in there. Like, he just,
yes, because it was Nathan Fillion. Forgot about that.
Yeah, he just, like, straight up visits them like a normal person.
Yeah,
in the book, and he's just like, here's this stuff. But anyway, so, like, they just straight up run Amazon, and they, like, live in a warehouse, because the main characters, like, visit them.
Just
and
like the people who work for Amazon.
They're like, we're fighting a war, can you help us? And they're like, no. And then there's, like, a fight in the warehouse, and it mentions, like, all the different, like, goods and stuff being pushed around. At some points, they, like, open the boxes really quickly to, like, throw stuff at monsters, try to fight them, and yeah.
There's actually a note about this in the guide that I'll get to at the end, but the sound effects for the cottage cheese house are heinous.
They are.
It's
Is that what it says in the guide?
That's
Please
not
tell
what
me
it
that's
says.
word
It's
for
deeply
word what
upsetting.
it says in the
Here's
guide.
what it says in the guide. Sound bites with Rob Jorgensen. The sound effect for walking around the cottage cheese house in the Seven Deadly Dwarves was one of the most disgusting noises I ever created.
Oh, good. He knows.
I brought in several boxes of instant oatmeal, made a huge batch of it, and filled a large Foley box with the squishy mess. Since oatmeal is cheap, easy to make, and appropriately squishy sounding, we often use it for any scene involving food. I set up my microphones and stepped into the box. I slipped around for, bolded for emphasis, a full day creating the Foley for that show. My shoes were ruined, but the sounds were great. Great here being a deeply subjective term.
Why would you wear, like, your good shoes?
Well, it probably weren't good shoes.
Okay, yeah.
There's another one, sound bites. In the Seven Deadly Dwarves, Snow White, Bethany, says, "Down with the king, long live the queen." A typo here. Not livery. Liberty, equality, fraternity. The second half of the quote is the French national motto, and the dwarves then sing hi-ho to the tune of the French national anthem, which is a pretty obvious piece of trivia, I imagine.
Anyway, I think the reason why I liked this episode as a kid is because I always really like it when the main character who's a good guy gets corrupted by the bad guys temporarily and is controlled by them. Those were always, like, my favorite episodes of all the TV shows when I was little. Like, the episode where Kim gets, since we're talking about Kim Possible so much, and by we I mean me, where she gets, like, the thing on her neck, and then it controls her when she's on the mission with, Jim and Tim and Ron, and then she, like, grabs them and stuff, and then Hugo gets one, and she has, like, an apron on and, like, oven mitts and stuff like that. But yeah, I always really liked mind control episodes because I'm weird like that. That's one of the tropes I'm just always really into, and also just, like, straight up the main character suddenly becoming evil, which is what I really wanted to happen in Kingdom Hearts 3. But it did not.
I know
I still hold up my hopes.
I know.
Maybe Sora is mom after all.
The reason I was thinking about FMA specifically here is that whatever spectrum of representation of the Seven Deadly Sins is, that has, like, FMAB here on the right, and then FMA Prime is here, and the Seven Deadly Dwarfs is, like, on the far left of this. I can never look at any representation of them, any personification of them, and not think about the post that points out how every single depiction of them shows 6 of the 7 deadly sins as the people who are experiencing the sin, who are committing the sin, except for lust, who is always portrayed as the person who is supposed to be the object of affection or the one, like, tempting people to it, which is really annoying to me because it's an inconsistency that is purely there so they can be like, ooh, look at the sexy character that we put. Yeah. When lust, by that logical standard of the rest of them, should be just, like, a really, like, gross pervert guy.
Can I just say, I really loved, what was it called? What was that movie that just came out with, what's his face? I know his name.
That one.
The DC superhero movie. With
Shazam? Zachary Levi?
Thank you. Yeah, that. So, like, the villains in that movie, which I did not expect, are straight up the 7 deadly sins.
Well, I know the good guys are all, like, reflections of, like, the good aspects, right?
They're all, like, spooky monsters and stuff like that. Sets. And Lust was a guy, first off. And I think that's the first time I've ever seen Lust as a guy in a representation of it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, heck yeah. And they all look like hideous monsters. And I was just so happy about that. Like, they all look really scary. One is, and you can actually tell which ones are which by looking at them, which I thought was, like, really cool. But one of them, and they all look horrible. Like, they're horrible to look at.
By the way,
one of them was Lust, and I was just very happy about that. I was like, this is the first time I've ever seen a Lust that is not only a guy, but is awful to behold. I'm so happy.
That's what I'm saying.
It was very good.
Also, in the middle of the spectrum is, like, all of the back cover characters, because they're good characters, but they just don't make sense how they line up.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about FMA and stuff last night too, and, like, the 7 deadly sins, is because I was watching back cover last night. So like
Everything comes back to Full Metal Alchemist.
yeah, mom is Pride because he's Superbia.
I
Because the
thought he
box
wasn't part of the
says
seven, though.
no, he is because
Oh.
there's 7 of them. Because there's 5 foretellers.
Okay,
There's
and Lushu,
Lushu,
and then
and then
Mom.
there's Mom. And like the first line in back cover is like Mom saying that there's 7 of them.
Yeah, okay.
And so
That's
like
valid.
the box says Super X, so he's Superbia. Lushu is I can't remember who like anyone is. Gula is Gluttony because it's like the Latin versions of
Yeah, and Envy's Envy. Yeah.
Envy is Envy. Ava is I don't remember what Ava
I don't
is
know.
or
She's perfection,
Ased,
is what she is.
or she has so many flaws. Don't even get me in.
Okay, so
Honestly, I want to stay in like Volpes because I'm very loyal to Volpes. I've always been Volpes. But if I would like stay with my same party and keep all my stats and stuff like that, I would want to be in Gula's faction because Gula became my favorite very quickly. He's the only one who's not like
yeah,
awful in my
fair.
opinion, and I'm gonna have to fight him soon because he's a villain now, and I'm upset about it.
Ased is Wrath, right? I imagine.
Ased is Wrath.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the other ones?
I don't know.
Lushu's Lust, I think. Which, like...
Don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either. But, like, the way the fangirls look at him, it makes so much sense, honestly. Who's left? Like,
Pride,
Sloth.
Greed, yeah, Sloth.
Greed,
Honestly, I could never remember all of them, all 7 of them, until watching FMA and using that as a heuristic to remember them.
I never finished FMA, I need to. Anyway, this episode, I have weird mixed feelings towards it. I think I'll give it a...
Oh, what I was going to say was, because we're talking about it, and we've talked about it before, about, like, where do they even come from, the 7 deadly sins? Because they're not in the Bible anywhere. So I finally looked it up, because we were reviewing this.
Oh, good. I wanted to know.
Because I've always wondered where they came from. The first concept of the list that we now know originated with a monk in the late 4th century, and he basically tried to condense sin down into like 8 categories, and then over time it got like translated, and then like 2 of them got combined together, and it created the list.
That sounds very Magnus Archive-y.
There's also like, there's 3 like subcategories based on the type, like ones that are like about like you fulfilling your own desires, or ones that involve hurting others, stuff like that. So they're like categorized into like 3 levels of badness in a very like that I think is also tied to like
a hard time remembering all 7 of them and not like subcategories.
Also the way I think that like it ties into like how Dante like ordered them. Yeah.
I can remember what the levels of hell in the Inferno like do, but not what they're actually called. Did you know that there's like 3 books? There's like the Inferno.
Oh
wait,
yes, I did know that.
And then there's I can't remember what the other one is.
I did know that. Well, yeah, it's Hell, Heaven, and Purgatory. Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah. And then one of them, the last one is like when it shows God, he's just like a bunch of orbs, and then I think like a book in the middle of or something like that. It's so funny. Like going through it is so hilarious because you're like, dude, Virgil, like, what is your... Virgil's the one who wrote it, right?
Dante wrote it. Virgil's the main character.
Yeah. It's like, what is Dante's deal? Like, he wrote it. It is the first fan fiction, basically.
I don't think it's the first, but it's
it's one of the first famous fan fictions because it's just him like fanboying over Virgil and how good his writing is. Yeah. And then once they go into hell, it's just him pointing out all the authors and stuff like that he doesn't like and showing them being tormented. And then when they go to heaven at the end in the last book,
immortal.
It's so funny. And when they go to heaven in the last book, at one point,
hey, look, there's that one author, Dante Alighieri.
It has like all of the saints or something like that, and all the angels. And then at one point they get like really upset or something like that. And then Dante's like, oh no, what's wrong? And they're like, oh, it's that one politician. He makes us so angry. And it was like the politician who was in power at the time who Dante didn't really like. They were like, oh, we have a special spot reserved for him. And I was like, Dante, what is your problem?
It's funny because he makes no effort to hide any of it. Like, it's so transparent, which is what makes it so funny.
He names his character after himself. And he's like, I'm so handsome and my girlfriend loves me so much. And I'm doing this all for my girlfriend who isn't even happy to see me once I get there. She's kind of like, oh, you're here too, I guess. Yay, I'm gonna leave first chance I get.
So that's
the 7 Deadly Dwarfs.
Yeah, a lot of literature talk from us today, about 40% of it about Rumpelstiltskin and Snow White.
Yep.
40% may be a generous estimation.
The Rumpelstiltskin story, we think Goldie was told his name by the devil, and then he rips his body in twain. What the heck, Grimm Brothers?
Is there supposed to be a parallel though? Because in the episode, he thought it was his mom who squealed on him.
They changed it, so his mom is the devil.
Yeah, well, actually, no, wait, his mom was Mother Goose. I forgot about that. In the episode.
Man, so many fairy tales do something like that. They're like, oh, my mom's straight up Mother Goose, but they never make Mother Goose a human. They just, like, make her a goose.
Well, I guess the birthing process becomes, like, less obscene when you can just picture him cracking from an egg and not having to come out of, like, a cloaca.
Mother Goose is a nickname. She was a person.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be a person, but everyone always draws her as a goose. I didn't know for a long time when I was a kid that she was like a person.
I forgot until you said it.
And I like forget about it sometimes. But yeah, she's just like a human being, and that was just like your cutesy nickname. And so many people are just like, nah, man, she's just a goose. And she birthed all these humans. And I'm like, that doesn't line up. What about how you do it where she's actually like a human, like she's supposed to be, who, you know, gives birth to humans as humans often do. Not all the time, I guess, because sometimes they're just geese, but like sometimes. Anyway, I went on so many tangents about fairy tales, but that's what I'm here for.
It's almost like we did 2 episodes about fairy tales.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you give Snow White for ranking? Yeah. Can we just not rank it?
I'm going to give it a 1.3 out of 5.
I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I love it, but I hate it. I feel like it deserves that mark.
Do you love it, but you hate it? I feel like you just hate it.
No, I actually do like this episode. When re-listening, I was like, oh, if I only had time to re-listen to one, would it be the one I've heard a billion times or the one I've only heard once? And I was like, well, time to listen to 7 Deadly Dwarfs. And I pushed aside things I actually had to do, and I was like, time to listen to it.
That is like the definition of executive dysfunction, specifically because of what this episode.
This episode broke me as a child.
And as an adult.
I love this episode, but it's a piece of garbage.
But it's my garbage.
It's my garbage.
Okay. I think that's about it.
I don't think I can do this anymore. I think it's time to go.
This is the end of the Oddcast. Goodbye, everyone. Final episode.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, our dad.
Bye. Goodbye, our dad. Oh, there he goes.
The curse is lifted. What are we talking about next time, Victoria?
Album 67?
Nope.
Nope.
It's the thing. It's a thing that you helped me out with earlier today. To read.
Books.
Yes.
2 books. Because we're not doing that 1 book thing anymore.
No.
So, books. One of them's about a cannibal.
Yep.
The other one has the word escape in it, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, Battle for Cannibal Island and Escape to the Hiding Place. It's episodes 8 and 9 of the books for the Imagination Station series.
I looked ahead. I think like book 20 or something like that is called like the Devil's Dragon, and I got really hyped because I like dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
they'll take 50 years to get to that one.
We're still reading the Imagination Station books.
Hopefully we'll stop reading the books by then.
You guys might not watch them, but I like talking about them because it's funny because they're bad.
I feel like I'm being held hostage.
You are.
I know I am.
It's like the Monster Factory, or not Monster Factory, but the Polygon cat lateral damage with Justin.
I showed Gabe that video. Either Gabe or Riley. It might have been Riley. I showed Riley that video.
That video is like a great representation of like the humor of a video just increasing at a linear rate over time. Just steadily
I consider
increasing.
that video to be the peak, pure essence of what it means to be a sibling.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Especially a younger sibling. Like, there's so many characters where I just relate to him so hard because I'm like, yeah, I got that younger sibling energy.
Yeah.
Like, that's why
I also
Louis is my
love
favorite of the triplets in DuckTales because I just relate to him so hard.
Which one?
Like, in the finale, Louis.
Yeah.
Because he just got that younger sibling energy where, like, I felt it so hard in the finale because Della was just like, yeah, we're going to use, like, Webby's strength, Huey's smarts, Dewey's adventureness, and then Louis just, like, looked down and walked away, and I was like, yep, that's me. Anyway.
Thank you for joining us on our the YouTube. Yeah, next time we're talking about books. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I'm the Sharpie. That's what Della said. She was like, need someone to be sharp. And I was like, that's me.
I mean, that's Scrooge's line.
No, Della said it. Oh, no. She was like, I need someone to see the angles.
Yeah, because that's Louis' thing.
I can't. And I was like, that's me. No one thinks the way I do because no one wants to.
When they described Webby as, like, the wild card, I was like, Webby really is Lindsay Jones, isn't she?
Dude, it was so good when it showed Della and Donald and Feathery and Gladstone, and then it just zoomed out to the others.
We've had enough sibling feels right now. I don't need to cry over sibling reunions right now. Okay.
I did not cry at all in the finale.
That makes one of us. That's the end of the episode. Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.